What's up? Just Aaron right here, Question Period Canada. I've got a question for you. Do you know that Pierre Poilievre puts a lot of insults behind his questions? Let's examine that. Let's take a look at how he insults so many times, but only one question.
So ashamed of his own economic update that he wants to avoid talking about it for the week that follows. We can understand why. Next year, he wants to spend $53 billion on debt interest, a record-smashing amount that is higher than the amount we spend on healthcare. Works out to $3,000 for every Canadian family. Will he get a control of himself and control of his spending so Canadians can get control of their mortgage costs? Well, maybe he should just give the media even more money to cover the news how he'd like it, Mr. Speaker. Canadians overwhelmingly want him to axe the tax. That's why he panicked and flip-flopped to take the tax off for a short time, and only for those people who are in a region where he's plummeting in the polls and his caucus is revolting. He knows that Canadians know they can't afford the cost of food as he intends to continue raising taxes, and so instead he tries to distract with media buyouts and by censoring views with which he disagrees.
We put a price on pollution, we're putting more money back in Canadians' pockets.
Has completed exactly 0 homes 2 years after it was announced. And here's why. The other day he announced a bunch of money in Halifax. And where did the money go, according to the city? To hire 29 new bureaucrats. Loves to blame others for the fact that he's doubled housing costs in 8 years. He's not worth the price of rent. Rental.ca in Canada says, and I quote, "For the 6th month in a row, asking rents in Canada hit a new high." Why, after 8 years of this Prime Minister, is rent going down in the States and up in Canada? That have not been realized. For example, he promised in 2015, 8 years ago, that he would sell federal lands to build homes. Now, today, Radio-Canada reports that it takes 23 years for the government to dispose of lands and turn it into new homes. In fact, one project won't be done until the year 2038.
More housing. We are there to release federal lands for the construction of housing, but instead of doing what the Leader of the Opposition says and picking fights with the municipalities, we will work with them to ensure that they are building faster. That's what our Housing Accelerator is all about.
So, for example, he's now given $15 billion to the renamed and recycled Construction Loan Program. This is a program that has built less than half of its targeted promises, and the new money that he says will build homes will arrive in 2025. The new homes in 2028. Has completed exactly 0 homes 2 years after it was announced. And here's why. The other day he announced a bunch of money in Halifax. And where did the money go, according to the city? To hire 29 new bureaucrats.
I hate to break it to the Leader of the Opposition, but a TikTok video is not a plan. Watching too much far-right American TV.
Will the Prime Minister become the 4 millionth Canadian to watch this documentary so he can see a common-sense plan to reverse the housing hell that he's caused?
Focuses on clickbaits and views.
He released a video the very same day of him in a starter home pretending that he was a real estate agent, but in reality everyone laughed because they know that he's doubled the housing cost. Right. He's delivered an economy where we have the fewest homes per capita of any country in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. Will the Prime Minister put his ego aside and join with me personally to take in this documentary, Housing Hell, How We Got In and How We'll Get Out of It?
The Conservative leader's present plan won't build enough homes fast enough, doesn't reach enough cities, and creates unnecessary red tape.
If he would just take 15 minutes away from his photo ops, he can watch my brilliant documentary on X or YouTube with a common sense plan to require cities permit 15% more homes.
We recognize the challenges Canadians are facing. He likes to instrumentalize Canadians. He won't solve for them.
He thinks that if he's expensive, he's excused for his failures. Mr. Speaker, failing is bad. Failing expensively is even worse. Right. Our common sense plan would require cities permit 15% more housing as a condition of getting their financing, give them bonuses if they beat the target, link the dollars they get for transit to requirements for apartments around them, and sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build, build, build. Why can't he get behind that common sense plan?
On this side of the house, we will always be there for Ukraine.
he's not there for Ukraine, he's there for himself. When he said no, and what he said yes to giving Putin an exported, big, powerful turbine to pump his gas and fill his war chest and export detonators used for Russian mines that blow up Ukrainians, Mr. Speaker.
Delighted to find ourselves in an argument about which side of the House is more supportive of Ukraine, because one of the strengths that Canada has had on the world stage these past difficult 2 years is that we've said there is no debate around support in Ukraine in Canada like there is in other countries where MAGA-inspired far-right movements are undermining supports for Ukraine. The deal that Zelensky is asking for, will they vote in favor of Ukraine? Order. To support military aid to Ukraine, they voted against. When it came time to support Operation Unifier, they voted against. When it came to the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, twice they voted against. While the Conservative leader is busy taking talking points from Fox News and Donald Trump, on this side of the House, we support Ukraine!
$80,000 vacation, which he got for free. He said, like most Canadians, friends welcomed him for that vacation. He took two, not one, but two private jets paid for by the taxpayer, burning 100 tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. He wants to tax the heat and the food of Canadians. Did he pay the full carbon tax on each of the 100 tons of emissions that he put into the atmosphere as part of his $80,000 vacation?
The Conservative leader has simply no plan to address climate change in this country.
Greenhouse gas emissions are driving up grocery prices. He put 100 tons of those emissions in the atmosphere for his personal vacation. Given that he gives himself a free vacation at other people's expense, will he at least allow Canadians to heat their homes without his tax?
While the Conservative leader is muzzling his own caucus and putting himself first, we'll keep putting Canadians.
Along comes ArriveCan, a $54 million app we didn't need, didn't work, and could have been done for $200,000 or $300,000. Now we learn, based on the Ombudsman's audit, that 76% of the contractors did absolutely no work for the money they received.
Mr. Speaker.
We're going to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
The Conservative leader just chooses to whip out his empty slogans and continue to blame everyone while we're getting to work.
Crime is way up. Violent crime is up 40% under this Prime Minister. And today he had his ministers hold a big press conference as their solution. And in it, they put out a press release that said, and I quote, "In 2022, approximately 9,600 vehicles were stolen in the Toronto area alone, representing a 300% increase since 2015. Let's get this straight. It's a company with 4 employees, headquartered in the basement of a tiny cottage. They got IT contracts, even though they admit they do no IT work. $250 million. WTF.
Here, here. I'm going to ask, we are dangerously close to crossing the line in terms of what is considered parliamentary language. I'm going to ask the honourable opposition leader, please, to withdraw that comment and to use parliamentary language, please.
Where's the funds?
And safe and keep them protected. But of course, even in the most trying times, perhaps especially in the most trying times, some very concerning questions that need to be answered. And that's why we're expecting and supporting all relevant authorities to follow up on these irregular contracting and this perhaps breaking of the rules.
A company that had never before received contracts from the federal government started getting an avalanche of contracts just 3 weeks after this Prime Minister took office.
Fully investigating exactly what went on here.
So like and subscribe. That's a really good time with Pierre Poilievre. He's such a beast at insulting politicians with his questions. It's an interesting phenomenon. How long can that last? Who knows? I'm Aaron. This is Question Period Canada. Thank you for watching. Remember to have something healthy to eat. Try to stay warm. We'll catch you next video.